Welcome to our companion podcast on important family business matters, Family Business Briefs, with our AI hosts, Jen and Ted. The content in these episodes comes directly from Family Enterprise USA and can be found at familyenterpriseusa.com. As we all know, many issues like taxes, economic policies, and new legislation affecting family businesses are complex. So, with the assistance of AI and our AI hosts, Jen and Ted, this technology helps make sense of it all in a brief, clear, and lively discussion, and all in about 10 minutes. We hope you find the information presented here useful and entertaining. Now, let's listen in on this episode's important family business topic.
Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're looking at, we're going to be talking about family businesses. And how some potential upcoming economic shifts could affect them. We got this document called New Tax and Economic Policies Look Favorable for Family Businesses.
Okay.
And it's interesting because we've got this prediction that millennials are going to be inheriting like $90 trillion.
Yeah, a lot of money.
In assets by 2044.
It's unbelievable.
So that's kind of a huge potential shift. I mean, that could really change the landscape of family businesses. Like, how do you even wrap your head around that?
Well, it's interesting because, it's not just about the money itself. Like $90 trillion is obviously a huge number.
Yeah.
But you have to think about what it represents.
Okay.
Like it represents this massive transfer of ownership and control within the American economy. We're not just talking about, numbers on a spreadsheet. This is about the companies that employ, huge portions of the population and contribute, trillions of dollars to the GDP.
Yeah. So let's jump into this document a little bit.
Okay.
It starts off, painting kind of a rosy picture, suggesting that, the new administration might actually put in place policies that are beneficial to family businesses, especially when it comes to taxes.
Yeah, and that's something that a lot of family businesses are hoping for. They've been talking a lot about, potential reductions in the corporate tax rate, the estate tax, which, for family businesses, lower estate taxes could be huge.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
How so?
Well, think about it. If you're trying to pass down a business to the next generation, you don't want to get hit with this massive tax burden.
Right.
Especially if you're a business. That is a lot of assets, like manufacturing or agriculture.
Yeah, it makes sense. Lessening that tax burden would definitely make it easier for the next generation to keep it going. So there's also discussion about regulatory reform as a potential plus.
Yes.
What kind of reforms are we talking about?
Well, one example would be like streamlining the permitting process, especially at the state and local levels, because, for a small family-owned business, like just navigating all those regulations can be a nightmare. It can be so time-consuming and expensive. So if they can simplify those processes, that would free up resources for things like growth and innovation.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting how these big picture policy changes could actually really affect Main Street businesses.
They trickle down.
Yeah.
In a very real way.
But before we go too far down this rabbit hole, I think it's important to point out, how economically powerful family businesses are already?
Yes.
Like right now. The document highlights some pretty amazing numbers.
Absolutely. Family businesses contribute $7.7 trillion to the U.S. GDP.
Wow. That's a lot.
And they employ something like 59% of the private workforce.
So basically every other person you meet
practically
is working for a family business. And it's not just the corner store.
Right.
These are big players in all sorts of industries.
Yeah, we're talking about retail, construction, hospitality, you name it.
And with millennials about to inherit all this wealth, they're going to be making a lot of decisions.
Right.
The document mentions they want to keep these legacies going, but they're also facing a lot of new challenges that previous generations didn't have to worry about.
Absolutely.
So what are some of those?
Well, globalization, technological advancements.
Right.
Those are creating both opportunities and challenges, for example.
Yeah.
The rise of e-commerce.
Yeah.
That's a big challenge for a traditional brick and mortar. Family businesses.
Excellent.
So this generation's going to have to be really adaptable and find ways to innovate, to stay competitive.
So they've got to adapt to, selling online. consumer preferences are changing constantly.
Right.
Finding skilled workers.
That's a big one.
It sounds like a lot to juggle.
It is.
And on top of all that, this document brings up another concern, especially for businesses structured as pass-through entities.
Okay.
So if you explain what that means and why it's a concern.
So a pass-through entity, like an S corporation or an LLC, they don't pay corporate income tax. Instead, the profits and losses get passed through to the owners. And then they pay taxes on their personal income.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of debate about, making sure the tax system is fair and that it doesn't disadvantage these types of businesses.
And that's a common structure for family businesses.
Yeah, very common.
So in addition to all the other things, millennials and inheriting family businesses have to keep an eye on tax policy.
Right.
What about the national debt?
Oh, that's a big one.
How does that play into all this?
Well, the national debt is obviously a major concern. Yep. And any attempts to address it could have ripple effects on family businesses.
Okay, how so?
Well, for instance, if the government decides to cut spending, to reduce the deficit, that could impact programs that support small businesses or lead to, reduced investment in infrastructure.
Which could affect businesses that rely on transportation.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense. And then, of course, if they try to raise revenue by raising taxes, that could also affect family businesses.
Especially if they target, income brackets that are common among business owners.
So there's a lot of uncertainty.
There is.
About how the national debt will be managed and how those decisions will trickle down.
Exactly. That's why organizations like Family Enterprise USA are so important.
Oh, okay.
They advocate for policies that support family businesses, and they work to educate policymakers about the unique contributions and challenges of this sector.
It's kind of like a bridge between
you could say that.
Policy and the everyday reality
of running a family business.
Yeah.
And that education and awareness piece is really interesting to me. Like if more people understood the role family businesses play, maybe we'd have more informed policies. So we're looking at a potential new era for family businesses. There's optimism about these potential policy changes.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of hope out there.
Millennials are about to inherit a lot of wealth and responsibility, but they're also facing all these new challenges like technological disruption, tax policy uncertainty, the national debt. It's a lot.
It's a lot to think about.
So how do you think this is all going to shake out?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, but it's going to be fascinating to see how this confluence of factors shapes the future of American entrepreneurship. We see, a new wave of innovation driven by millennial-led family businesses. How will they adapt to this changing economic landscape? How will they address, long-standing challenges like wealth inequality, environmental sustainability? It's all up in the air.
And that's where organizations like Family Enterprise USA become even more crucial.
They're a vital resource for these businesses. They provide support, advocacy. They foster a sense of community, which I think is really important. You know, when you're facing so much uncertainty, it's good to know that there are others out there going through the same thing.
Right. Yeah. A support network.
A support network.
I mean, family businesses are resilient.
They are.
They've adapted time and time again.
Throughout history.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you for joining me today.
It was my pleasure.
For this deep dive. It's clear that staying informed and engaged
absolutely
is more important than ever.
Especially when it comes to
understanding how policy changes, and these broader economic trends could impact the future of family businesses. So until next time, thanks for listening.